Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash, Barakatham. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to your Akim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the Brother Raya with another video. And it's going to be a video dealing with China's social credit score and how it's already here, at least in China, and it's just a sign of things to come for Esau Edom's New World Order, that beast system. Because I did a previous video on government employees being tracked by a new smartphone AI tech, which had a trust-based score in it, very similar to China's social credit score, showing that all the pieces are in play to roll out that mark of the beast, which is that microchip implant. And what we're waiting for now is just a global economic collapse, civil unrest, which you're seeing, World War III, a false flag, what have you, for them to just roll out all these systems. But I'm going to start it off with a article from advox.globalvoices.org titled Orwellian Dystopia or Trustworthy Nation, Get the Facts on China's Social Credit System. And what you always got to remember is that the heads of these states around the world rub shoulders with the elites. So that's why you're seeing a bunch of similar new technological applications come out in these countries. They may vary here and there a little bit, but they're all following along the same path, which is the path towards that new world order, because these heads of states are on board with the elites' agenda for the new world order.
So, one of you recently brought this to our attention, and when we first started looking into it, we couldn't believe it. Even now, looking at this, I keep thinking that there's gotta be something about this that I just don't understand. Like, I must be reading this wrong. It's just so clearly something out of dystopian science fiction, and yet, here it is in our world, and people are actually embracing it. Apparently, China has gamified being an obedient citizen. Going under the innocuous name of Sesame Credit, China has created a score for how good a citizen you are. And that's one of the scariest things I've heard in quite a while. It's jointly run by Tencent, yes, that Tencent, the one that owns Riot Games and has a significant share in Epic and Activision Blizzard, and also the ascendant Chinese competitor to Amazon, Alibaba, hence the name Sesame. So the owners of China's largest social networks have partnered with the government to create something akin to the US credit score. But instead of measuring how regularly you pay your bills, it measures how obediently you follow the party line. They dredge data from your social network, so if you post pictures of Tiananmen Square or share a link about the recent stock market collapse, your Sesame credit score goes down. Share a link from the state-sponsored news agency about how good the economy's doing, and your score goes up. But Alibaba
In Esau's New World Order, that beast system where he wants everybody microchipped, is going to follow along those same paths. If you're an obedient, good slave worker to the system, you may get more credits on your microchip implant. But if you're not, if you start bucking up against the system, they'll take your funds away and then eventually take off your chip, and then it's game over.
and Tencent are also the largest online retailers in China, so Sesame Credit is also able to pull data from your purchases. If you're making purchases the state deems valuable, like work shoes or local agricultural products, your score goes up. If you import anime from Japan, though, down the score goes. And this score has real-world consequences. Like many games, Sesame Credit has tiers and levels, and having a high score gives you special benefits, like making it easier to get the paperwork you need to travel, or making it easier to get a loan. Now, currently, there are no consequences for having a low score, but there's been talk about implementing penalties once the system becomes mandatory in 2020. Penalties like slower internet speeds for low-scoring citizens, or even restricting the jobs that a low-scoring person's allowed to hold. But there's...
that they may neither buy nor sell, and let me go back to it real quick.
Like making it easier to get the paperwork you need to travel, or...
This is an article from ZeroHedge.com. China bans millions from flights, trains, and social credit crackdown. It's already here. China has banned millions of people from any number of activities for being labeled as untrustworthy on the country's Orwellian social credit system. Banned from such things such as air and train travel, blacklisted individuals are being pushed in a broad effort to boost trustworthiness among the 1.4 billion Chinese citizens tracked by the massive system, which assigns both positive and negative scores to various metrics, reports SCMP. And you're seeing this happen in China based on the social credit score. But I did a video the other week on how the powers that be are working on new rules and regulations to restrict and even ban people's air travel based on criteria that the authorities will determine whether you're labeled a hazard to the nation or a domestic terrorist. You're seeing everything's all playing into this new world order. People with a great social credit score will get green channel benefits, while those who violate laws will be punished with restrictions and penalties. But who decides what laws, what's considered violating a law or not? Hangzhou, the city of China's Xinjiang province, rolled out its social credit system earlier last year, rewarding pro-social behaviors such as blood donations, healthy lifestyles, and volunteer work, while punishing those who violate traffic laws, smoke and drink, and speak poorly about the government. And that's the key thing right there, speaking poorly about the government, because as you know, the U.S. has come out with all those new acts talking about people being considered domestic terrorists for speaking against the government, or being considered an eco-terrorist for talking about trying to save the environment. And we know that if you're a man of the Lord out there on the highways and byways, you're definitely considered a domestic terrorist or a so-called black identity extremist, because one of the main tenets of what we preach about out there is the fall of Babylon the Great, which is the biblical name of the United States of America. And you're seeing it seeming a little innocuous right now, just with people getting a low social credit score. But eventually it's going to get to the point to where if you don't take that chip, you're going to have to put your head in a guillotine and get put to death.
Or making it easier to get a loan. Now, currently, there are no consequences for having a low score, but there's been talk about implementing penalties once the system becomes mandatory in 2020.
Penalty by death.
Penalties like slower internet speeds for low-scoring citizens, or even restricting the jobs that a low-scoring person's allowed to hold. But there's one more layer to Sesame Credit, and here's where this goes from being repulsive to downright insidious. Because this is all part of a social network, it also scans your friends. So you will lose points for having friends with low obedience scores. And it tells you this. At any point, anybody can check anyone else's score. And when you check your own score, Sesame Credit provides a handy map of your friends to show you who's dragging your score down. Have you ever had that thing where you play a game with somebody who wasn't doing very well, and you...
Think about it in these terms. You know somebody who gets the chip and you don't get the chip. They may get more benefits for ratting you out because you don't have the chip. And it's going to be made that much easier when they plaster your face on the news showing you as a domestic terrorist, and they don't want to get linked up to you for knowing your whereabouts and not telling the powers that be.
You've tried to change their behavior to make them do better? Or maybe after a while you just sort of stopped playing with the people who were holding you back. That's at the heart of how this system works. And it's also what makes this one of the most terrifying tools of authoritarian oppression I've ever read about. Because, like, mass censorship, jail time, assassinations, those are all big, messy implements for keeping a population in line. That messiness and severity foster resentment, eventually rebellion.
That's pretty much it. But, as you can see, things are getting closer and closer to that New World Order beast system, which is going to be predicated on that microchip implant. And you might have people out there that think, oh, this is just in China doing this social credit score. But on this article on activistpost.com titled Orwellian Smartphones Tracking Government Employees Could Become the Pentagon's New Employee Access Cards, they're showing that they're putting this into the United States as well, starting with these government employees having a trust score. As it says here, the system then continuously updates a trust score based on the algorithm verifying that the correct person has the device. And I use this video right here in a previous video, but you see it's very similar to that Chinese social credit score.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll transfer the funds now. Hello?
Oh, got a low trust score. You're not authorized.
Hello? Hello? Go for Newman.
He has the right trust score, so it's going up.
Yeah, sounds good.
Higher score for larger transactions.
Okay, yeah.
And this would be all so much easier and more manageable with that microchip implant. This is Revelation chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 14.